Ted Hughes was an oyster, do you think Sylvia Plath would have been allergic to him? Welcome to Lost for Words. I'm Sarah Woods, and we are continuing to explore great women poets, continuing with Miss Sylvia Plath, and we're taking short little dives into her journals alongside exploring some of her poetry. And today I have a really fascinating quote from her journals that I think will give us a lot to talk about. Okay, so this is on page 107, and in this section, she's just gone through this like long section trying to figure out her thoughts on marriage, wrestling with her desires for having a male figure in her life, that love relationship, that passion relationship that happens with a male, and trying to figure out what a marriage would look like for her as a woman, being someone that's very ambitious. And it sounds like her first love is writing, and it's like she's trying to figure out what kind of man could she have a relationship with that would work, and what would her marriage look like in a way where she could be a wife and an ambitious writer. And so she's going through all this, and she comes to the end of page 107, and I love this quote because you can feel her apprehension about commitment to someone. Let's just read it. Okay, it says, "To use a favorite metaphor, it is as if both of us, wary of oysters, so rich and potent, at once digestively dangerous as they are, should agree to each swallow an oyster, our prospective mate. Tied to a string, our reserve about committing ourselves. Then, if either or both of us found the oyster disagreeing with our respective digestive systems, we would yank up the oyster before it was too late and completely assimilate it in all its destructive portent with marriage. Sure, there might be a little nausea, a little regret, but the poisoning, corrosive, final, destructive, would not have had a chance to set in. And there we are, two scared, attractive, intelligent, dangerous, hedonistic, clever people." I love this. To me, that says a lot about her what a strong desire to try something, but also you can feel her great fear of trying something that's going to make her sick. And so this is when she's still in college at Smith. So she has not met Ted Hughes yet. She's still mulling over the ideas of falling in love and marriage and figuring out her career, what she wants in life. But it made me think about her relationship with Ted Hughes. I have not gotten to any of the parts where she starts to tell their story. So I don't have any real knowledge about her feelings about their marriage from her mouth. But it made me wonder, if Ted Hughes were an oyster, would she have yanked the string back up if she could have done it in time? I don't know. Obviously she married Ted Hughes, and obviously, for years they were married, but also obviously things ended very tragically with their marriage and with Sylvia Plath's life. I guess it made me very curious. There's some part of me that wishes that I could talk to her, if she could see her life from heaven or whatever. If you could talk to her like, what would her perspective of her marriage be like? Would it be an oyster that she would have yanked back up? Or is it something she's thankful that she, no matter how painfully it ended, or all the pain that came with it, that she's thankful that she tried and digested, if that makes any sense. I don't know if y'all have ever been sick from eating oysters, but a couple of summers ago, I had never had an oyster, and I was so excited about trying them. Oh my gosh. Me and my family were at the beach, and we were on our way home. We were going to be leaving, and we stopped at this place, and it was called Awful Arthur's, and it was truly awful. We even got the t-shirt. But we stopped, and I remember I got some raw oysters and I got some fried oysters, and I just wanted to try them all. It was just something that I had always wanted to try, but had just never tried. And they were really good. Like, I really enjoyed them. And then when we were on the way home, about 30 minutes into the drive, and we still had about 2.5 more hours to go, I started getting so sick. Like, I mean, it was awful. I would not wish that on anyone. Like, it was so bad to the point, like it's bad when you're pulled over at a gas station and you don't mind like throwing up in a gas station toilet. So to me, her talking about this experience of wanting to try the oyster but wishing that she had the control to get it back out if it started to make her sick before it could do like really bad damage to her, I completely empathize with. Because I know on my way home that day, if I had a string to pull that oyster out of my stomach, I would have gladly pulled it out, because that was sickness like I would not wish on anyone. It also made me excited to get farther along in her journals and see how she writes about him, and how she writes about falling in love with him, how she writes about just her experience of being married to him, and how she as a person like reacts to him, and how she reacts to marriage, like if it is something that she's able to like digest, and like that it's that it works for her. Did it only go bad at the end? Like, I guess I'm curious about all the years that led up to the tragedy, because I know that Ted Hughes was not faithful to her at the end of her life, and that caused a lot of the hurt. But I guess I'm very curious about the all the years before that, and what they were like. Anyway, if you could try out another person like an oyster, or marriage like an oyster, with a string that you could just pull back up as soon as you realized you were allergic to it, would you do that? It made me think about divorce. I mean, now people are like, divorce is very common. Like, we're allowed to divorce. If you get into something that you don't like, technically you are allowed to get divorced. But I guess I feel like relationships are a whole lot more complicated than just pulling an oyster back up. If your body starts to like have an allergic reaction to it, there's just a whole lot of more complicated things that intertwine us with a person, that it's a whole lot more. Sometimes people probably divorce pretty easily, but I imagine it's like sort of like this like untangling of spirits, of love, of intimacy, that's a lot more complicated than just ripping it back out. But anyway, Thanks for joining me. I hope you have, I hope you're having a great day, and I'll see you again next time. Goodbye.